Hi, welcome to Detours Understanding Acquired Brain Injury. And with us, we have Julie. You recognize her from before.
Thanks, Mark. I don't love giving advice anymore because of my brain injury, but I'm trying to improve that, so I will do my best today. I I had to learn to do everything again as I'm repeating myself, I know, but so what I do instead, like for exercise, for example, I was addicted to exercise. I was addicted to running.
Hmm.
A cardiac arrest playing soccer, and so now I don't play soccer. I watch my son play soccer sometimes.
Hmm.
And I do yoga a lot. I stretch a lot. I have different set of friends, which aren't all brain injured. Some are, some aren't. It's just
Right.
like it's actually more diverse than it used to be. My mixture of friends, so I consider that a bonus. But I'm trying to look on the bright side more than I used to, and it wasn't hard for me to look on the bright side prior to my cardiac arrest. I mean, I had a good life. I lived well and I ate a meal every day and I was with my family, and so sometimes it's harder now. But I still try to look on the bright side.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think my mother and father instilled that in me, and I'm very lucky. I have a strong nuclear family, and it worked well for me. I'm college educated, and then I had to learn when I had the cardiac arrest on the soccer field. I had to learn that I wasn't married anymore, and which hurt. But my son is with his dad, and I see him. I see my son regularly, and that's what matters to me. So I try to refine the things that matter to me. And it's not that I don't care about other things that I used to care about more. It's just I try to focus on different things than I used to. So I can't swim well, but I'm a sinker. I guess some people are sinkers, some people are floaters, and I'm a sinker. But
Hmm.
and because of my vision, I don't wear contact lenses anymore. I just can't. And so I have a hard time seeing, of course, without vision help because I wear glasses all the time. And so I don't swim that well anymore, but I don't swim as often, I should say. I swim fine, and I think I could save myself, but I have better skills prior to my cardiac arrest regarding swimming.
Hmm.
So, um, so things change. I don't play soccer. I walk a lot. I read some, and reading isn't as enjoyable because I don't remember, but sometimes I'm reading short stories, or I read poems, or I look at different things that I wrote when I was in college, or I try to I try to review things that are easier for me to now understand and be okay with. So that's those are a couple tips that I've given myself, and I hope they help somebody else too. Is just to think about what we do as humans, and help one another with doing good for each other and doing good for the planet. For example, so I'm lucky. I have traveled significantly because of my job prior to the cardiac arrest, and I've seen really neat places in the world, and so I consider myself lucky. When I feel down, I look at some pictures that I used to have that I have saved, from where I traveled. And I wasn't with my son, but I was with my family, or I was with friends that I knew at the time and not really in touch with, but I had good memories. So of those, and I don't have memories as I mentioned, but I have pictures, and they remind me of the things that I did, and I consider myself lucky for having been able to do those things.
I mean,
So
you said to me you didn't have a lot of good advice, but that sure sounds like really good advice, to be honest. A lot of good advice. So you do have good advice for survivors. And that's the thing. It's like we often get down on ourselves for I don't do this, I can't do this, I don't have this. But the trick is when you look and you push yourself a bit, We should look back at the things we did, the things, we shouldn't like forget that it ever happened, even though that may be your old self. It's important to maintain contact because a lot of that stuff you still have inside of you. You still are, it's not like the old you is dead or something. You still have the personality traits you had before. It's just like that as as we learned when I was studying neuropsych, and this is something they stressed, they said oftentimes like the personality traits that emerge that are quote new, they aren't really new. They're exaggerate things that you were like before. And I've stressed this in other videos when I talk about brain injury, is that they just are magnified. If you tended to be a little more shy, that's like now way more. Or if you tend to be outgoing and social, you may have had it a little bit and then it's like magnified. And so that's not something you associated with yourself because it was only a little. But if you were more outgoing, you become really so. I was a little bit social, a little bit, but now I'm a lot more outgoing and social. I never would have thought of doing a YouTube channel before or doing something like this, let alone reaching out for people. I was a little social. I like doing some clubs here and there in organizations in high school, university, and, grad school. But not really. I focused on studying because I wanted to do well, but the other stuff, did I enjoy it? Yeah, but it really wasn't something big. Now, after my brain injury, as my friend Kate, as you and Kim and some others are a lot more outgoing people. And so, you know, I don't know if that's different for you now, but you definitely do seem more outgoing than I would imagine you were before. And I like that. It's one of the things that makes you a friend.
Thank you. That's nice. That's a generous compliment. Thank you. I think I am more outgoing than I used to be. I'm not painfully shy, but I used to be painfully shy as a little girl, and I'm of a big family, so my
That
family,
helps.
it's not easy being shy. Why don't you try to be a little more outgoing? So that's what I think of that. Those words when I'm struggling or just beside myself or even happy, I'm like, to be out more outgoing, think of somebody who might need your help, or and I am pretty, I'm Catholic by
Uh-huh.
my heritage, and I try to help people when I can, and so
Right.
I
But
think that's what we should as humans try to
you
do. I feel like that's one of the things we need to do is help one another. So
And you have been helping, like, teach about brain injury. This is what you're doing with us. You are a member of our company, and you've been helping teach people. That's very generous and kind-hearted of you. You're sweet, and you're a kind person. I mean, you may not be able academically or to do what you did before, but so you're an advocate and an educator. You're a teacher. That is your occupation at the time. You're a brain injury advocate and educator.
oh, thank you.
Well,
I
that's
like
how
that.
that is how you're listed with us in the company. Um,
Oh, great, great. I'll try to remember that. And brain injury advocate. I like that.
and you're as a general member for Friends of Brain Injury, you're listed as advocate and educator because that is what you are, as far as we're concerned, and that's important. And it's like the advice you've given is what makes it valuable. It's like the that insight is, again, we tend to be hard on ourselves afterward. Our confidence is broken to a million pieces. After we suffer brain injury, because it's like, I can't do this, and this is how I identified myself. You obviously identified yourself as an athlete and as as an actuary for Aetna, um, which were two, as an educated woman, as an very educated person, as smart, and um, a lot of the people here with Friends of Brain Injury, we identify ourselves as, you know, previously as intelligent as, and those of us who used to do athletic activities, I still try to swim. I can't dive anymore. Heck no. Not like I used to. I was in several state competitions. I can't do that anymore. I'm certainly was not, A quality, probably C or D quality when it came to diving, but it's what I used to do. I used to run also, certainly not at your level. It was like just a couple, college bits, but I'm not any of those things. I'm certainly no athlete. I enjoyed diving and stuff like that, but I wouldn't consider myself athletic. Um, you know, um, but I love doing it. I can't do that anymore either. I've got a prosthetic leg as well as my brain injury, you know, but I certainly did. I identify myself as, you know, based on my academics, my intelligence, as you did, and through my career. I mean, I'm not a neuropsychologist. I couldn't finish. Um, I don't know. It's redefining yourself when you have a bunch of disabilities is hard. And somebody was talking about that the other day when I saw it on the internet. They were like, "Well, do you identify as a disabled person?" I was like, "No, I identify as a person with disabilities, just like I assume you would, as a person with disabilities, but you're so much more."
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Mark, and I'll just let you know what I've been thinking about is that I'm not a bad person. I'm
No,
not an exceptional person. I'm a fine person. I'm
you
a
are.
solid.
And that's
Health
something I've tried
and
to get you to acknowledge. I mean, um you're kind, you're very sweet. It's you're a good person, and more than that, you are caring, and it's like,
well,
you know,
thank you.
and
I don't always think of myself as caring. I think of myself as tired and a little bit boring. But I mean, I'm not that boring, really.
good.
I just have to dig a little deeper, maybe, or something
How
like.
Let's face it, a lot of like good, kind, caring people do tend to, like feel that they're a bit, boring. But it's like I'm not exactly a major source of excitement either. Let me be honest. I like to laugh. You do too.
Yeah,
Um, and it's like I know that. As I said, I like when you laugh. That's
thank you.
and because you do have a distinct laugh, and that's neat. Yeah.
I had a friend in college. She used to try to make me laugh, and it was just funny because she always tried to make me laugh. I'm like, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, And it's just fun to remember those
Well,
things.
it's still true. It's still true because it's something that makes other people smile, and it's like you have a very room filling kind of laugh, and it's like you make people happy by doing that, and when you smile, same thing. And it's even little stuff like that. And those of us as survivors, we need to remember the many gifts we still bring. And I it's hard when day by day we are faced so often with our problems, with our deficits, and we think, well, gee, I can't do this, I can't do that. And we're reminded by family, friends, others, not out of ill intent, but just, they say, oh, well, so and so, it's like, you know, they might say, Julie can't do this. We better not bother with this. Or Mark, he's not going to remember this, or he's not going to do this. Maybe I should ask someone else. And it's like, it's not necessarily meant negatively, but it certainly is hurt. And it's like, we need to be able to withstand that and or make adjustments for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. I I also think that something that's simple but might help you and others with brain injury is that we're strong people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm not like a weightlifter or anything that's strong. I'm just strong, uh, you know,
Spiritual.
I'm spiritually strong and I'm emotionally strong, I would say.
Yes.
I'm not trying to brag or anything. It's just who I am. It's just who
It's
I
true.
am. I've had to rely on it more since my cardiac arrest to do that.
That is definitely a truth about survivors. We are also warriors by nature. Many of us are, for some reason, and this is like relates to something I had mentioned the other day, I think when I was talking to you. when I had said, I think those of us who have those reserves, those cognitive reserves, those mental strengths, we are the one, because we have that cognitive and mental strength and the intelligence and the will, we're the ones who survive because we're the ones who can make it. And it is important for those of you who are watching. You survive for a reason. Now, I don't claim to know what that is, and a lot of people are like, I hate when somebody says I survive for a reason. You're the one who has to figure out why. And it's easy to give up because you're too scared. And dying is easy. Living is hard.
Yeah,
Living with disabilities is even harder. But that's another thing, like going back to the stuff you're talking about, is like gratitude for the things we have rather than about stuff we don't have. I'm really a big advocate for positive psychology. It's like every day, don't think about something, or even better, if you have a journal, write down. We try to close our meetings whenever we do executive committee meetings for the company. Try to say something positive and try to think about a person for whom you're grateful in your life every time we meet. And it's got to be somebody different so that you're thinking about all the people who made a positive impact in your life. You know, people you're happy that are in your life. But
interesting. Thank you. Yeah, I was writing down some positive things recently,
that's important.
and I said, I've been lucky. I grew up in a good house,
Yeah.
a good home, and my family is strong. Like my mother, um, she calmed all the time, and it was a positive thing to me. It wasn't an annoyance at all. It was just a nice thing. And my father listened to fun music, and we
Right.
watched the news sometimes. Sometimes we didn't, but I'm a little more connected to the news than I wish I were. But um, I'm lucky that I can do that. I
Yeah.
feel grateful that I'm able to do that still. So
I mean, this relates to something we talked about, is like finding things that are still good. I mean, you had said before, and I really like this. You said overall, if you look back at your life, you still and you would say you've had a good life, and you have a good life even now, despite the disabilities and challenges. You would still say you have a good life, and I would say the same of myself.
it's great. That's great. And I hope our family of brain injured survivors are in the same boat, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I the others I have spoken to who are part of our big family, it's like have said the same thing. And I'm grateful they're a part of my life too. I'm grateful you're a part of mine.
Yeah, no, I would have, if I had died at my cardiac arrest there, I wouldn't have seen my son grow up. I wouldn't have seen my mom or my dad pass.
Mhm.
There's more family than that than I
Right.
need to mention, but it's just one of those things that's important to me, and I
Hmm.
feel lucky that I've been here and have had the cognitive capacity that I need to understand how great it is to be alive some days,
Yeah.
most days.
Right. And no one has all perfect days, but certainly, and it's like you wouldn't have made the friendships you have either.
Right. Well said. Well said.
And, it's like we wouldn't have become friends either if you didn't have.
No, you're right, Mark. Thank you. You're right. I wouldn't have been, and I'm grateful for what I have. And yeah, and I'm thankful that like last week I saw a butterfly and that reminded me of my youth. And so
Yeah.
then I think, well, wow, I'm lucky that reminded me of when I was a little girl because it might not have.
Yeah.
and and so my brain doesn't work the way it used to, but it works some, and
Right.
I'm thankful that it works some, I don't know.
No,
Well,
I agree with you. And, I'm like, um, it's just important, and to do our best to remember the others in our lives, and show them the kindness we can and the help we can. you know
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's been, and I think we don't focus on that enough as Americans.
definitely not. No, America's got a problem with that sometimes. I mean, we tend to be self-focused and we do forget, to help out. And those of us with brain injury sometimes mess it up because we have trouble understanding the thinking of other people. So we tend to be a little more inward focused, and we need to break that habit. And so, that's also one of the things we try to stress on our channel is that it is important to reach outside yourself. It's not out of bad intent. It's not, but it's because we have some cognitive problems. That's why it's important to let other people know we care about them and to stress these kind of, outreaches.
Yeah, that's great. Well said, Mark. Thank you.
And, so I will say to you, thank you for being my friend and I appreciate you.
To you, the same.
Thank you.
I'm lucky. We are lucky people.
Yes.
And I think might be a rerun, but we don't recognize ourselves as being lucky. And I say this to
Yes.
I say this to my 18-year-old occasionally, but and people in his school, he goes to a demographically diverse school, and I
Right.
chose his house, the house that he lives in with his dad, and I chose that house because I wanted him to go to a demographically diverse school to meet different kinds of people, to educate him in a different way than I was educated.
And that will make a difference when he gets out. I mean, you've made a lot of wise choices that will make sure that when he gets out into the world, he's able to work with different people and he's able to appreciate and understand. You've done a lot of good by him. And so, it's like, and that he will in turn hopefully pass along to the next generation. You can only take, your kids so far, but you certainly can help set them up right. So you've done well by him and you've provided him with, you know,
Well, thank
care,
you.
compassion, love. And, he also sees you today and learns from you today too, like you
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I think we do need to think of others. And I was thinking of my son, as mentioned, and I'm sure you think of your wife and your family as
all the
well,
time. Of
as
course, all the
we
time.
should. But you have to think of the other people in the
Right.
world too. And another place that I do that sometimes is at church. Like
Hmm.
one of my aides that I have a couple times a week, she goes to church regularly. So
Hmm.
I go to church sometimes, but I don't go to church every week, but I go to church sometimes, and sometimes we make sandwiches for people and that
Right.
make sandwiches for a meal for people who don't have a meal every day. So, and my friend that I mentioned, Katie, she
Mhm.
likes doing that. And I think that's great. And it's not a big deal for me to buy another couple pounds of lunch meat and make
Right.
sandwiches. It's a good thing to do.
It's kind and generous. Again, as I said, you're a kind and generous person. You're a good person. Hey, you're very sweet.
Well, thank
And
you.
those kind of things. And, it's like also what you're doing here, reaching out, helping people, and, definitely appreciate that. And that ties in and kind of ties up what we were talking about in the very beginning. It's like learning to accept and recognize and understand the things you can do despite the disabilities you have. You may not be on the path you intended, but one of my favorite biblical verses comes from Job, which people are like, Job, really? That's a pretty dark book.
That's an oldie.
Yeah, it is an oldie and it's kind of dark, but as Job said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I shall return to the Lord. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Praise be to God. And honestly, it's about learning to stand despite what challenges you face. Bye.
Hi, everyone.